All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. Thanks for joining our monthly event. So, um, let me go through the agenda for today. So, we have three presentations. One is mine, the first one, which is about uh, you know, marching towards the responsible AI, which means I just want to give an update on, what is the work going on within AI Authority and, just give you a glimpse of how we are marching towards the responsible AI, which is our mission. And then we have a presentation from Nilda Thomas, which is on AI in workplace. So how to build role-based AI skills that boost productivity, compliance, and workforce capacity. And the third one is from Max Mayo, why AI transformations fail and how to make them work. So these are the three presentations, and each presentation is about 40 minutes. I may be little, I may not utilize the whole 40 minutes, but we can leave at least 5 or 10 minutes for questions, right? So anyone, if you have any questions, feel free to put your questions in the chat, and the presenter will try to clarify your doubts or your questions. Okay. So with that, now let me go through my presentation, which is how to, the marching, how we are marching towards the responsible. Yeah. So, restating our mission is to, be definitive authority resource for responsible AI best practices, driving the responsible development and deployment of AI to lead a future where artificial intelligence is synonymous with trust, fairness, and positive social impact, right? Globally recognized for its responsible development and deployment. So, in short, we want to promote AI best practices, and also we want to bring that, build that responsible AI within the organizations, everywhere. Whatever we do should be responsible, trustworthy, right? So, otherwise, we will not be. I think, if we don't, take that into account now, so the future will be very bleak, right? So because, we don't know what happens with the AI, especially, things can go wrong drastically. So we want to make sure that we are taking the right action at the right time, right? So already, I feel like it's kind of delayed from a regulation standpoint. So most of the regulations should have been in place maybe 10 years back or even before. But we started, bit traction in the regulatory area, where we are having every country is coming up with AI regulations. So we also want to give a hand in that perspective, right? So what is good, what is not good, right? So what can we do, what we can't do when it comes to AI? So we want to build some, best practices around that. So in regards to that, so we had developed some frameworks, which I will show you in a minute, some toolkits, and we are planning to develop some reference models or reference architectures. So I'll explain those as well. So now, if you are familiar with AI Authority and what we are doing, so these are the frameworks that we have developed, right? Uh, so one is the AA strategy. So whenever you want to start an AA journey, we have to start with the AA strategy, right? So build that AA strategy, and then we need to develop architect AI at an enterprise level. Okay, so this AI enterprise AI architecture gives you, so it understands the AA strategy, right? Business strategy and AA strategy, and identifies what AA solutions we need for our organization in the next 3 to 5 years, or even more. Right. So once you figure out that, once you identify those AA solutions that needs to be developed, so we need to architect those AI solutions, right? So that AI solution architecture framework will help you on how to architect our AI solutions. And this AI engineering framework will take care of the coding aspect of the AI, right? So how do we build our AI systems and all that, right? And then AI computing will identify what kind of computing power we need for the AI solutions that we had identified, right? Whether it's CPU or GPU or TPU or even cloud quantum computing. So whatever that is, you know, that you need for your organization, right? Or for the AI solutions that you had identified. And then once you develop your AI solutions, how do you deploy them, right? How do you run those AI solutions in the operations? So that is what this AI operations is about. So this is more like a DevOps for AI, right? AI operations framework. And then how do we integrate our systems? Right? So AI integration, it deals with like how do we integrate AI solutions or models, right? So whatever the mechanism that you use, right? So how you're going to integrate multiple systems and models and leverage that for the benefit of the nation. And then we have AI governance, is, how do we govern our AI solution, right? So whatever we are doing, right? So we need to have some governance in place so that we are doing the right things, right? So this is very important. And also we need to look into the AI security, right? Because security is in all layers, right? So these are the frameworks that we have developed. Now let me give you an update of how we are progressing in terms of these frameworks. Now, if you look at the progress that we made, so these green ones, enterprise AI architecture, AI solution architecture, and AI in AI security, we are coming up with two frameworks again, AI security and AI security for developers, right? So we hadn't started that yet, but we are going to roll out that pretty soon. So I would say we have done quite a bit of work in from these three frameworks standpoints, and we are going good, right? And that's why I colored it as green. Okay. And the three frameworks, a governance, a strategy, and a engineering, it's work in progress. So we are making some changes. We are making some, headway in these three frameworks. So hopefully these three frameworks also will be mature as these three green frameworks. And AI computing and AI operations and AI integration, we hadn't touched that yet, meaning so not touched, but we hadn't done any significant work in those three frameworks. So if any one of you are interested in engaging in these three frameworks, the development of these three frameworks, please let me know. I can, so we can work together and make these frameworks also mature. So these are the frameworks that we had made some progress, and we had introduced some new frameworks from a management standpoint. So we had introduced AI for program managers, AI for portfolio managers, AI for project managers, and AI for business analyst and business system analyst. Okay. So these are the four frameworks that we had introduced from a management standpoint. So these are also very good. How can you leverage AI for your work, right? So if you are a program manager or a portfolio or a project manager or even a business analyst, so you can take advantage of these frameworks. Okay, and then so these are the toolkits that we had come up with. So these are our, proprietary toolkits for AI maturity assessment, AI readiness assessment, AI value assessment, AI regulation and compliance assessment, bias impact assessment, fairness assessment, right, etc. So we had developed these toolkits. I think these are pretty rudimentary, right? So not very advanced, I would say. But if anyone wants to, participate in maturing these toolkits, you're more than welcome, right? Especially the tool vendors, if they want to lend a hand in maturing these toolkits, probably, I would be more than happy to work with you guys. Okay. So yeah, given that, so that's about our frameworks, and those are the advancements that we had made. So now coming to the reference architectures, probably some of you guys already might be knowing this. So we had done a poll probably a month or month and a half ago, to understand, what kind of industries are interested in developing some reference architectures. Okay. So we did a poll, and this is the result of this poll, right? So, and I've been checking whether this poll is still relevant, or whether it makes sense. I found that it does make sense. The results that we got are pretty much what the industry is also thinking. So I'm confident about this poll result. Now, so looking at this result, as you can see that the finance and insurance industry is the one that has, a very good interest, and then next one is the healthcare, and then the government.
Oh my God.
Hey,
Yes.
Kevin, I think we are getting some echo. Can you be on mute, please? We are going to take these three industries, and we are going to develop some AI reference architectures. So when I say AI reference architectures, now we take these industries, we look at the capabilities that these industries need, and then we identify what capabilities can be enabled by AI, and then a little bit of, what technologies. Again, we don't go in depth into the technologies and how those AI enablers can be implemented. We just identify what technologies and what approach we have to take to implement those the capabilities. So that anyone, so if you are from a finance industry and you don't know what capabilities can be AI enabled and what technologies are needed to enable those AI capabilities, so you can, if you look at this AI reference architecture, you get a jump start. So you don't have to start from scratch, right? So we are doing that research for the whole industry to look at, get a sense of what capabilities can be AI enabled, and how do you going to implement them, right? So I think that's that's what I think it's very helpful for the industries, with the various industries, right? So that is one of the things that we want to contribute to the these various industries. Okay. So that's a second initiative that we are taking upon. Okay. And so if anyone wants to join, okay, so you can email me email us at info@aiauthority.ai, or reach me any way you want, right? So email or LinkedIn or any way you want, so I can get you started, right? So there are, we had a member meeting, I think couple of few weeks back. Many showed interest in participating this the development of this AI reference architectures. So we will be kicking off pretty soon. We'll discuss further in the next member meeting, and then we'll take it forward. Okay. So if you also want to join, feel free to reach me or any of the members. Okay. And so how we are going to use all these things, right? The frameworks that we developed, the reference architectures that we developed, the toolkits that we developed, right? And for those who are not aware of AI Authority, I would like to give a glimpse of how AI Authority works, right? So AI Authority is not a single organization. It's an ecosystem, right? So we have several parties involved. We have end users like the companies or any individual, even in individuals who wants to develop AI solutions, right? And we have solution providers. On the other hand, so we have some companies or individuals who can develop AI solutions. And then we have AI experts who can be part of our AI architecture board. I will show you how this everything works, right? And then we can have auditors who can do the audits, right? And we have tool vendors and trainers who can do the trainings on our frameworks or toolkits. And then we have we want to work with the regulatory bodies, standards bodies, to make sure that those regulations and standards are also evolving, and we are also contributing, and we are also testing those regulations and standards. And last but not the least, AI aspirants who wants to become AI experts. So they can come to us and they can take a journey from the developer to the chief AI authority of AI officer, right? So they can progress their career from the bottom to the top, right? Using our frameworks, the information that we are putting, right? So they can take our trainings, right? And take go through that the AI journey, right? And for so these can be either individual members or student members who can join us, and then uh, you know they can take advantage, and there's a good discount on the trainings for the either the individual members as well as the student members. Okay. Now let's see how all this works, right? How AI Authority is planning to work, right? So or how AI Authority is working, right? So let's take these the end users and the solution providers. So when I say solution, it's solution slash tool vendors, right? And then in the middle, we have the AI Authority, which is pretty much the extended enterprise of AI Authority. So in AI Authority, we have several AI experts, but we are engaging all the AI experts across the globe, right? To leverage our platform. Okay, so let me explain how this works. Now, let's say an end user, right, has a use case to be developed. So they can come to AI Authority and submit that use case, right? So once that use case is submitted, now we will allocate a few members, like maybe 3, 4, or 5 or 6, right? So not more than 10, I would say, few members to that use case. Okay, and this board will review, right, that use case, and they assess whether there is any value either from a business perspective or from a technology perspective, and then they give a feedback to the end user, right? Now, taking that feedback, now the end user can decide to whether to go for the implementation or not. Now, once they have decided to go for implementation, right? So then again, these board members who have been allocated to that use case will do the high level architecture, the design, they select the products, they select the vendors. So these vendors, vendors can be from our members only, right? So they are all part of our AI authority. And and then they guide throughout the development cycle, right? So the development cycle for AI could be the problem definition and requirements gathering, and the data collection, data pre-processing, right? And model development of the models, and then model evaluation, and then deployment, right? And monitoring and improvement. So this could be a typical, life cycle for an AI solution. So throughout this whole development life cycle, the architecture board members are guiding both the solution or the tool vendors as well as the end users, right? So they will be guiding the end users also, right, to take the right decisions at the right time. So now the ultimate goal of this whole process is to give an optimal, responsible, trustworthy, unbiased, fair solutions to the end users, right? So they can leverage this platform, and the AI solutions can be developed at a fractional cost of any regular, AI implementation cost. Okay, so and you are getting the experts across the globe, right? It's not it's not that single so you're getting the experts across the globe, and we are making sure that your AI solution is developed in a very optimal and responsible manner, right? So that's the advantage, that's the AI authority advantage. Okay. So this is how we are operating as a authority. So any questions? So if you want to engage in any of our activities, either developing the frameworks, either developing the reference architectures or tools, right, or even in the implementation of the AI solutions. So feel free to reach us, connect us on LinkedIn or our website, right? And you can submit for membership. So right now we are giving a free membership, but once our AI authority stabilizes, maybe we may charging for membership and all with bare minimum charges and all. Okay. So that's how we operate. Anyone has any questions, how we are progressing, or do you have any suggestions? We should be doing this rather than this, or whatever. We are open. So we are open to any feedback, and we want to make sure that the whole world, the whole society is developing AI in a very responsible manner, because a lot of if you search on Google about the AI incidents, right? There are a lot of incidents, a lot of fraudulent activities, a lot of incidents happening when it comes to AI, right? So a lot of bias is there, a lot of hallucination is there, right? So a lot of issues happening in the AI space. So we want to avoid that. We want to mature the industry in terms of AI usage, right? So join hands with our AI authority, and let's make this a successful journey. Okay. So thank you. Let me see if I have any questions. I'll try to answer them. If not,
Suresh, this is
yeah,
Kiran. I have one question, Suresh.
right.
If
Yeah.
Suresh, if you go to can you please go back to the slide that you presented, how AI authority works? Yeah, this
Okay.
one. Actually, I'm a little bit confused in this one. So basically,
Mhm.
when you say AI solution providers, you have mentioned model building, model evolution, model development, MLOps, and everything, right?
Mhm.
So what I'm trying to understand is when you talk about AI, it's not just ML, machine learning, but it also extends to agentic AI and also the enablement of AI infrastructure for the organizations, right? So then in that case,
Mhm.
this model building, model evolution, and model development directly go into like a predefined bucket which is called ML, basically machine learning
Not
models.
necessarily. It's a, and again, so it's a typical development life cycle I
Yeah,
had put in here.
yeah.
So depending on the solutions that we are developing, it can change. So I can't put everything in one
No,
slide.
no, 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 Suresh. I
That's the
mean,
reason.
I
Yeah,
really understand,
yeah,
but basically, what it really, I mean, I'm just giving my perspective, right? Don't take me
yeah,
wrong. So,
yeah.
from an AI solution providers, right? So, these are the generic process, but
Mhm.
if there is a little bit, what you call clarity, like saying the requirements and data collections is fine, and after that, if you have a different capabilities in the solution providers like AI, ML,
Mhm.
agentic AI, and everything, then
Right.
it will clearly gives a overview to the people saying that this AI authority is not only for standard solution, but it
Right.
is also provides what do you call extends what do you call not only a T shape
Yeah,
but
yeah,
also it
yeah,
multiple
yeah.
bandwidth.
It covers everything, right, from
Yeah,
a
yeah,
perspective.
yeah.
Yeah, 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 I understand. So, yeah, definitely, I'll try to enhance this slide.
Suresh, this is Banu here.
Yeah.
Maybe we can change instead of saying AI solution provider, maybe we can say AI fabric providers. Because
Okay.
when you say fabric, it covers everything.
Right. Right. Okay. Yeah. Sure. Oh. So, yeah. So this is just to make sure you understand how AI authority works at a high level. I don't want to get into the nitty-gritty details, but yes, I hear you. I take that feedback and try to enhance that. Yeah. Okay. All right. Any other questions for me? Okay. So
So
yeah,
Suresh,
thank you all. Join
Suresh, one
hands with.
last question from my
Yeah.
side.
Okay. Yeah.
So Suresh, here in this picture, AI end users use case is submitted, right? So basically, I'm typically thinking in a way like for example, in my organization, so business comes with AI use cases, right?
Right.
Like for example, I work in banking industry, so
Okay.
business has a lot of AI use cases, and they will register in an AI funnel or AI registry, and there will be a certain board
Mm-hmm.
of group of people from different capabilities, right? Who checks the business value and how and what is the integrity of the solution. Can it improves the overall what do you call reduce cycle time or it generates a market value like that. There are different
Mm-hmm.
parameters, right? And then they will say these use cases can go for next level, and these use cases there is no need to do it because it doesn't generate any business value.
Right.
So I'm thinking in this way, like what you are saying here is that people who has a use cases, they will come to a authority, meaning they will hire you guys,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and your team will provide the review use case and provide feedback. Is that the thought of
Yes, right.
intention
So
here?
we are like, yeah, like a architecture board within your organization. We
Yeah,
are a generic architecture board who can take any use case and review and guide the organizations to build right AI solutions. So yeah, that's the intent.
that's the intent. Okay, okay, clear. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Any more questions? Okay. So with that, now I turn the presentation to the second one, the presentation from Nilda on how to build the AI capabilities, right? So Nilda is a very senior AI proficient AI expert. So I will let her introduce herself, so probably she can give a better introduction. So Nilda, the floor is yours. Take on.
Thank you, Suresh. And thank you so much for inviting me to come and impart on some information that I think would benefit everyone. We're all in this together, right? And
Mhm.
learning
Yeah,
together.
that's true.
So let me share my screen. Okay. All right. Are you able to see everything correctly?
Yes, Nilda, please go ahead.
Okay. Okay, great. So, good morning, everyone. And today I'm going to talk about AI in the workplace, how to build role based AI skills. I am, my background is over 25 years in Fortune 500 companies with Deloitte, Microsoft, AT&T, and I'm also the creator of the AI Workforce Pro Enablement System. I come from a background of business marketing and technology. I have, excuse me, also worked in the workforce development space and the supplier diversity space. I also, so I look at AI more from a workforce development lens. I also am an Amazon bestseller. I wrote a book on AI for executives, a blueprint for success, innovation, and growth. And you can find that on Amazon. I also have 2 white papers, business transformation, the impact of an AI educated workforce, and just recently AI for insourcing, building the AI ready workforce. I believe that, you know, we are all learning, and so we are all helping each other internally. Also, have been appointee of the National Small Business Advisory Council, and I've been featured in several magazines as well. So let's take a reality check. Everyone, you know, I don't want to say everyone, but, you know, most companies, even if they have not adopted AI, you better believe that their employees are already using AI in some form or fashion. So the question is that, you know, is it working for you or is it working against you? So 77% of employees are already using these tools. But again, are they using it correctly? Are they using it ethically? And are they using it responsibly? Because those companies that don't have AI policies in place, those individuals who are using AI, and if they don't use it responsibly, that company could get into a lot of trouble. So why generic AI training fails your workforce? It's not a one size fits all. It doesn't fit everyone. So I look at it you know, you have your prompt workshops and job skills. These are generic GPT demos that don't really tell your team how to apply, you know, AI to their specific role, task, or daily responsibilities. They're using it, but they're not really using it for their specific role. And I'll show you a little bit better what I'm speaking of in a few minutes. There's no role or context, so there's no real adoption. So without connecting the AI to your job function, your employees don't know how it's going to apply to them. And so adoption just basically stays at the surface level. There's zero compliance guardrails. So the generic training never addresses that, you know, what employees should not do with AI. And so again, it leaves your organization exposed to data and liability risks. And there's no way to measure progress, or they don't have a way to measure progress. So if training isn't tied to role specific outcomes, you can't track adoption. And so your skill growth or your ROI. So you're basically flying blind. I've seen a lot of articles where they say, you know, they've invested in AI, but they don't see the return on investment, and that's because they're looking at it differently, or they're not tying it to the role. So the solution is role-based AI readiness, and that's something that I have created my trainings and my frameworks around. And so it's training built around what each person actually does at work. So it increases your productivity. So the AI skill is directly tied to your job tasks. So every employee knows exactly how it fits into their workflow and saves the most time. And what's good about this also is that with a lot of companies that are laying off workers and employees, that work still has to be done by someone. And so that those employees that are left working, they have to pick up the ball and not only do their role, but also do someone else's role and trying to figure out how to do it. So that's costing time and money. And so with AI, with the role-based AI readiness, this can help that employee that has to not only do their job, but also has to pick up someone else's job that is no longer there. Then you also have compliance. So you have to build in those guardrails by the role so the employee knows exactly what it can and cannot do, specific context that's protecting the company. And then the capacity. So the AI expands what your team can handle without adding a headcount, and scaling capability without scaling your payroll. And all of this is delivered through my proprietary AI Workforce Pro enablement system. So with AI, everything starts with a prompt, right? So you know the analogy, garbage in, garbage out. But a great prompt, that's where the magic really happens. So every AI output, good or bad, begins with what you put into it. And a lot of people struggle with how to prompt. And so most employees prompt AI the same way that they would Google something. And that's where the gap costs time and quality, because you can't use AI like you're searching on Google. The difference between a weak prompt and a strong one is the time, accuracy, and benefit and business results. So what is context prompting? It's prompting with a purpose. And here are the three elements. You want to tell the AI who it's speaking as. So you want to give it a role. You set the context before the expertise and for the expertise and perspective. So an example would be you're an experienced HR manager at a mid-sized manufacturing company. So you've given it that role. The next is that you want to provide the context around your prompting. Give the background, constraints, goals, relevant details. The more specific, the better the output. So an example here is we have 45 employees and are updating onboarding to remote workers. So that goes right behind that role. And then you have your output. So you want to define exactly what you need back, what format, what the length is, what the tone is, what the audience, and leave nothing to chance. So you're giving it the role, then you're giving it the context, and the output that you want is you want to create a 5-step onboarding checklist in plain language and have it under 300 words. So you see how specific that is. So let's see context prompting in action. So my first tool that I want to share with you that I created is called the prompt amplifier. And so what you're going to see is you're going to watch how a basic vague prompt transforms into a highly performing context prompt instantly. So let me stop sharing this presentation, and then I will go and share the tool. Okay, so here's the tool that I created. It's called the Prompt Amplifier. You can find it at promptamplifier.businessaiconsulting.com. And this is where you can amplify your prompts and elevate your outputs. And the 3 steps is you want to, just put a brain dump, start with messy, paste your raw thoughts, ideas, or goals. No formatting is needed. And then the AI will polish it up, or will rewrite it to refine it. And then it'll give you a mega prompt. So I'm going to show you how that works. So I have a few starter prompts here. So because of the time that we have, I'm just going to use one of these samples here. Okay, so we're going to try this prompt. This one is a local business marketing plan. So the raw idea is I just opened a bakery in my town and I need help getting customers in the door. I don't have a big budget for advertising. Okay, so this is the raw prompt here. So we want to rewrite it for clarity. And you click on it. And look at how the prompt has now been refined with a little bit more context to it. Do you see that here? Okay, so it's already telling you that it's already a clear, a strong, clear prompt that you want to take it further. So let's upgrade it to a mega prompt. And you'll see in a minute, it's going to create a mega prompt. Look at how robust that prompt is. It's very detailed on the role, right? It's detailed on the task. It's detailed on your context and your constraints and the tone and style and what the output format is going to be. And it shows you right here. And then what you're able to do is you're able to, copy it and then paste it into your favorite LLM whether it's ChatGPT, Gemini, or Claude. So the next, let me share again back to my presentation. Okay, so now the next tool that I want to show you is the industry role-based prompt generator. And this is a generator that shows you how to prompt for your industry and also for your role, your specific role. My slide is not advancing. Let me try it again. Okay, there we go. Okay, so this is my industry role-based and prompt generator, and I actually did a recording of it so you can see it in action. And so here is the AI Workforce Pro. Again, I'm the creator of the AI Workforce Pro. This is my hub that has training, training will go in there. The training has not gotten in there yet, but it does have other tools that will be added in there that I'm developing. But this one is there live. And so as you can see, I have general productivity, industry specific, and role-based. It can also translate into other languages. Right now, it's only in Spanish. And some of the general productivity prompt generators I have, your industry prompt generators, your role-based, and I'm always adding. So if someone ever asks me, well, do you have this particular one? I may not have it. I can create one, but I'm going to show you here. Now we're looking at the prompt generator for operations. And you'll see that here you choose your expert role. So it could be operations manager, operations analyst, and then it shows the type of content or deliverables that someone in this role would need to develop. So we're going to choose supply chain manager for this example. And as you can see, these are different, or no, I changed it. I'm sorry. Process improvement specialist. That's the one that we're going to show. And so we're going to click on workforce optimization as the content type that we need to develop. And then here is where you put in your context, right? So you would put in the name of the company. Here I put ABC Inc. I'm saying, choosing the industry, I'm saying it's manufacturing. Then I'm putting in the department, which is going to be fulfillment. And supply chain. And the goal for this is to, as you can see, it gives you different goals. And for all of those other roles, all those roles would tie in whatever the goal might be. And the target audience, I believe I put in here procurement. And then you have the type of tone. You can select what tone you want, and then you can then select what output. And so here I'm choosing step-by-step guide, and it's creating the prompt for you. So as you can see, here is your prompt based on what we've put in there. And then I also have other things that are baked on the inside. So you can copy that prompt. You can put it into ChatGPT or Claude, Perplexity, or Gemini. And I'm going to show you in ChatGPT. And I named my AI Bestie. So she's my bestie. So I'm letting Bestie know because I've trained my AI, and that's important. You want to make sure that you train the AI on your persona as well as your company persona. So I'm letting Bestie know that this is a demo. So not to extract any information that she knows about me that I've already trained the AI on. So here I've pasted in the prompt, and she's already telling me this is a clean, actionable, step-by-step procurement workflow guide built for manufacturing. So here, as you can see, it has created, by putting in that prompt, it has created the workflow optimization guide. It's giving us a step-by-step, which we've asked for. It's mapping it to the procurement. It's giving you a checklist. Step 2, also your standardized and streamlined vendor intake. Building a scorecard, what your actions are, what your best practices, the KPIs. Step 3, introducing a digital approval workflows, setting up approval thresholds. Step 4, three-way match. And so as you can see, I believe it's going to give us 10 steps on how to create this. And so, just think about it. Is this something that you or this person who is doing this would know how to create this? It would take them time. It would take them a lot of time to do some research on what they need to do and how they need to do it. And here the AI is actually giving them a roadmap for 12 weeks, the 90-day plan, right? And what to expect. And then it's even asking me if I want to take a step further, if I want to click have a branded table, a slide deck, or a procurement, workflow checklist. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to input this into Claude. All right. So I need to go back here first, and I just need to make sure that I have all my tone and everything else in place in the format. So I'm choosing step-by-step guide again. And so now I'm going to put it into Claude. And this way you can see the difference in the output. And I love Claude. I use all of them all the time. But, again, with AI, you want to make sure you keep the human in the loop. And so sometimes, I might like some things that ChatGPT gives me, others that, Claude may give me. And so I will take maybe, bits and pieces of each to make it my own. But this one looks pretty good. This one is a little bit more polished, as you can see with Claude. It gives what the current pain points are. It's asking those questions. And so, and then it's giving you what the phases are. What the phases are. So now it's giving you the phases instead of steps. Whereas ChatGPT gave you the steps, but it's giving you the baseline of their KPIs. It's even giving you charts here. Your implementation steps. It's giving you templates as well that you can put in there and then just input your numbers and things. And of course, you never want to put any personal information on clients or on your company into the AI. What you can do is, especially if you're going to be analyzing data, you can actually just take the data portion of what you want to analyze without having the name of your company or having the name of your client and put it in there, because what you want is the analytics from the data that you've put in there. And then once you get that, then you can build your report out to whoever you need to submit that report to or present to. But as you can see, this Claude gives you a better output and more detail, and even gives you templates that you can just copy and paste, and what your training program should be. And as you can see, it's very, very robust and gives you your milestones here. And what your success metrics would be. So, a lot of times you're whoever you report to, or you have to make a presentation to a client, you want to let them know what does success look like. And so this gives you an idea of how you can articulate that to them. So now I mentioned to you earlier about the AI, about role-based training, and I also developed AI, what I call an AI role plan, which is a blueprint for specific AI readiness. And it's a structured plan that maps out the AI skills and tools and use cases specifically for your job role, including what the compliance guardrails are and measurable success metrics. So you have, the role overview, the AI opportunity map, recommended tools, the prompt frameworks, compliance guardrails, and the success metrics. And so I'm going to show you a sample of what a PMO director in healthcare role plan would look like. I'm only going to take you through a few pieces so you can really get a good idea of what this looks like. But as you can see, the AI opportunity map for a PMO director is your project status reporting would be 60% faster. Your risk identification would be more proactive. Your resource allocation utilization would increase. Your meeting preparation, would go from 45 minutes prep time to 8 minutes prep time. And then your regulatory compliance logs, your risk would decrease. You have your compliance guardrails here, and then also what the success metrics would be. So your reporting cycle could be reduced from 40% plus in 30 days. So let's take a look at what it looks like. So this is a proprietary GPT that I have. And here you can either, copy and paste the LinkedIn profile of the person that you want to analyze, or a short description or role. And so because of the time that we have, I'm just putting in something just really short and sweet, PMO for a healthcare system in Michigan. And what it's giving us here, it is giving us a matrix of 8 competencies across the top. These are the 8 competencies across the top that this person should have. And under each of those competencies are the KPIs for those deliverables. So there's the competencies at the top, and then the KPIs for each of those deliverables. And this is something that could actually work for, to work with for HR, or even if it was a department head, right? And this is how you can also make your employees, accountable in how they can use AI. And so here is, you could pick something like a PMO dashboard, project plan, compliance checklist, and this comes from the list up top in that matrix. So I chose, for this example, the PMO dashboard. And so here, it is giving us 10 different ways that it can help the PMO in the healthcare system with creating a dashboard. So you can do image to text, text to code, text to file, voice text. It's giving you all these different ways in how you could create this. And then it's asking me, are you ready to move to the next step? And they can build the exact prompts for your first dashboard with AI. So again, remember I had mentioned before, it's hard to figure out what the prompt is. People struggle with prompts all the time. And so here it's giving you steps on what you have to do to create this dashboard, but it's also giving you the prompts, right? So you copy and paste the prompt into this, into your LLM. And it gives you these steps. And with each step, you're copying and pasting this prompt, and you're starting to create your dashboard. So just think about, how you're doing this now, or how this individual who's in the PMO would do this now, or whatever profession that you're in, because this role plan is for any profession, and it would be customized to your profession. So you would get the the KPIs and the competencies that you would need for those persons. So this is showing you here, with the task for this particular dashboard. So you have to do requirements gathering. So without AI, it'd be 6 hours. With AI, it's 2 hours. So you saved 4 hours. And then these are the other components to create this. So as you can see, it's for like data structuring, 10 hours, you save 67%. So now it's giving you also what the role impact is per dashboard. So you saved 47 hours just for the dashboard piece. And so it's just giving you an idea of, if the resource cost is $65 an hour, without AI, it would be 76 hours versus times 65 would be 4,940. With AI, it's 29 hours times 65 is 18. So you're saving $3,055 there. So again, that's showing you your ROI, where a lot of companies are saying, well, we don't see the ROI when we're implementing AI. And this shows you how your ROI is impacted here. So now this is for all of the competencies that were given in that matrix earlier. So this is for this complete role of all the competencies and deliverables in here. So actually, for this role, it would save, it would normally be 160 hours. With AI, it'd be 62 hours. So it's a savings of 98 hours. So your monthly time savings total saved is 98 hours. Time saved is 61%. And then you have your payroll here. So 61% time savings is like 73,000, over 73,000 in productivity value per year. This is only a snippet. This program that I have is actually an 8-week program that we can take, a department and help a department head to create role plans for each of their team members. So what changes when your team has this, right? Without a role plan, you have random AI adoption, so there's no strategy or structure to it. Generic training that doesn't connect to real work, compliance, blind spots, and liability exposure, no consistency in quality or output across the team, and no way to measure your AI adoption or your ROI. And so AI feels overwhelming, it feels optional, and it feels kind of risky. But with the AI role plan, you have structured, role-aligned AI usage across your teams. The training is tied directly to job tasks and daily work, built-in compliance guardrails by the role, clear metrics and measurable productivity, and also increases, your ROI. And so AI becomes a workforce multiplier and not a mystery. So this works across all industries. And as you know, AI is touching every industry and every role. So, from healthcare to retail and service, from nonprofits to professional services. So we build around your roles. So it's not a generic template. So the next step is, you want to start with clarity and you want to build with confidence. So I invite you to take scan the QR codes there. One is to take the free AI readiness assessment, and I just ask you a few questions. It takes about 3 minutes. And then if you'd like to book a free discovery call with me, you can also scan that QR code to the right, and that'll take you to my calendar and schedule some time for me. So this is how you can get in touch with me. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. My email is nilda@businessaiconsulting.com. My website is businessaiconsulting.com. And of course, there's my LinkedIn. And then again, if you want, you can go on ahead and scan and take that assessment now while I take questions. It's only three minutes. It's just a radio check off that you have to do. And there's also a button there if you'd like to schedule a time with me to discuss your results as well. And then you can scan and book your call there. So I'm open to questions if you'd like. Thank you, Suresh, again. I appreciate it.
Yeah, guys, do you have any questions?
Oh, I just join.
Okay.
No
Anyone?
questions? All right, I'll stop sharing. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much, Nilda. Okay, so moving on, the third presentation is from Max on why AI transformations fail and how to make them work. So Max, you can share your screen and start your presentation.
Great. Thank you, Suresh, again for putting this together. And I hope everyone's had a good time so far learning all the different tests. Thank you, Nilda, for what you just presented as well. And today we're going to, at least my section, we're going to talk about really all the various AI transformations, how a lot of them are failing, and the ones that are working, why they're working, and how do we continue to make them work in this case. So I'll quickly tell you a little bit about my background, but really we're going to talk about just framing everything, what's happening today, how we're actually looking at the problem of AI scalability, and the proposed solution around this, and then finally the questions and answers. So I'm the founder of Triforce Strategies. We've been around for about 10 years now, specifically around transformation management. I have over 25 plus years of consulting experience, from starting with project management to process management to change management. So I am the intersection of all three areas in this case. I have done in my time plenty of ERP implementations. I have done strategy organizations, optimizations across multiple industries, from Fortune 100 companies to small community development organizations and nonprofits. So I have seen it all in my day, from one place to another. But really here, I want to jump into what we're talking about today. So where are we today? You guys are all familiar with AI. That's why you guys are here today. So, but to sort of level set where we are as part of the discussion, AI investment, it's everywhere. That's, I feel like, realistically, the only place where money is going these days. And when we're talking about money, we're talking about trillions of dollars here. We have $1.5 trillion invested in AI in 2025. 2026 is looking at becoming a $2 trillion plus investment year. And when we're talking about investments, we're talking about everything from your basic infrastructure. Those are all the data centers we keep on hearing about, whether it's good or it's bad, to funding development. And when you're talking about startups, you're talking about your angel investors. In 2025 alone, there was over $200 billion worth of that. So AI investment, AI dollars is being spent at every level that you can imagine at this point, the supply chain, from nascent applications and companies to the fundamentals of the infrastructure itself. What that means from a sort of organizational perspective is there are a lot of AI tools out there. Let's be realistic. We hear about it every single day, even from people who have nothing to do with AI. I've heard about it here. If you're in the industry, you know that this year is the year of AI agents or agentic AI. People are using it, people are more familiar with it, and it's moving closer to more autonomous states. The other big piece you're seeing is the multimodal push tools. You're having AI tools that can process more than one type of data, which has become much more useful as we sort of go through. And the other big push that we're actually seeing is we're moving away from the general purpose AIs, such as ChatGPT, Cloud. Not to say that they aren't great, and tons of people will still use it. I still use it, absolutely. But you're starting to see the trend of industry specific and functional specific AI tool sets and LLMs. And a lot of that is because there is a lot of concern around the trust in the data sources, and these systems need to be more specific to do the work that companies are expecting. So we see a lot of development around that generative AI capabilities as we push through that. And lastly, I want to really impart, while we are talking about infrastructure, while we are talking about companies and how they're using it, we also need to realize that AI is really pervasive through the entire sort of society that we have right now at every single level. Besides the workflows, you have the concerns that it is impacting electrical costs. So even people who are not using AI have feeling the impact of AI. For a lot of the younger generations, and I will say even some of the older generations, you're seeing them use AI at a completely new level. Everything from answering simple questions to, people no longer Google a question, they go to ChatGPT a question. Because they prefer the answer that way, or they're using it directly in their social medias, whether it's TikTok, Instagram. That is how they are looking and viewing AI at this point. Quite honestly, some people are using them as therapists. I will not opine whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but the important thing to sort of take away from that is that it is at every level of society, whether it's indirect or direct in this case. So while as a whole, you're seeing a lot of dollars obviously accelerating and being spent on AI, how it's being ingested and operationalized is still all over the place, quite honestly, if you take away all the hype. And so that's when we talk about AI adoptions. For all the dollars that are being spent there, 70% of those transformation projects around AI adoption fall short of the objectives. And really, they are due to three main things. One is employee resistance. Second one is companies honestly struggle with how AI works in their workflows. And the ones that are pushing for fast AI deployments sometimes have to pull back and reset again because there are unintended consequences in this case. So I'm sure many of you have heard, and I'll refer again to it later, about the MIT study about the 95% of AI projects don't show any ROI. That's a big number, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but that is sort of a headline. This sort of shows, for all the dollars being spent, really where is the value being seen here? So it's not about the activity spent in this case, is what I'm trying to, I guess, really push through to you. It is about the outcomes. So I want to dig a little bit deeper. That was sort of a macro level down to inside organizations. So again, AI is being adopted every single place you see. I think every company I've talked to and work with wants AI. It's the new big shiny thing. 90% of organizations are using AI somehow, but only really 30% of them have scaled across the enterprise. And out of all those, only about 5 to 20% of those are actually having any sort of meaningful financial impact from the AI itself. And again, I've quoted those numbers, 80, 95% of those initiatives, AI initiatives, really don't deliver any measurable ROI. And it's not really the technology fault. It's more of an operating model change and an integration. They don't really understand what ROI they're looking for. And I'll start here with what the actual data shows. And I will, again, start with the MIT study that was back in last July. 95% of AI implementations show little or no measurable P&L impact. But what we do see, and this was also back in November, McKinsey came out with a study showing that 88 to 90% of organizations are at least using AI in one function. It's typically one department, one workflow, one business activity in this case. As I said, only a third of them, this also comes from, have scaled it across the entire enterprise. And when I say scale, it is not a pervasive scaling. It is scaled in different departments. Some are using it minimally. Some have really gone all in on it. And as we said before, 75% of AI-driven financial gains are just captured by 20% of the companies. So not to say that there isn't stuff there, but it is a small segment of the companies that are using AI that are actually driving financial gains that we see in this case. Because it's not deploying AI as a tool. It is really redesigning how you get work done. And I'm definitely going to go into a little bit more about that as we progress. And a lot of how we're going to be doing that is understanding how we reframe this problem of how we adopt AI in this case. So as I mentioned before, my background comes from 20 plus years of experience doing a lot of software development. In this case, for many of you, I imagine you are familiar with the ERPs and CRMs of the world, from PeopleSoft to Oracle. And many of you may remember back in the day, in the early 2000s, even the 1990s, ERPs and CRMs went through the same sort of scenario that we're looking at right now. Back then, you had 70, 80% failures in projects as they were being implemented. And it was for a lot of the same reasons. There was the technology there, the technology worked, but they overpromised on capabilities. And there wasn't an actual understanding of how it worked within an organization. And how did they fix that? They started looking at process standardization. They started understanding with a clear ownership for what are the actual use cases that made sense when you're implementing ERPs and CRMs. They developed mature governance structure because, quite honestly, those weren't there back in the day. We're facing the same sort of problems that we had 20, 25 years ago with ERPs and CRMs as we are today with AI. It's a lot of it about it is understanding what is the scope complexity that you're dealing at? What is the change management effort that's associated with implementing something like ERPs, CRMs, or AIs? ERPs and CRMs, they're seeing better results because they have 25 years of change management experience and transformation experience to know what to look for in this case. So that's one point, sort of one mark I want you guys to consider as we look at this. ERPs, they standardize works. Before ERPs, everything was sort of hodgepodge. But if you look at how they were looking at, they developed system implementations. They did control rollouts. It was really led by IT, and they had fixed workflows. Everything sort of worked together seamlessly once you put an ERP. Not to say they didn't have their issues, but once they got it set correctly, it ran smoothly. The difference, though, with an AI model is AI is more of a capability layer across an entire industry. It's not being driven necessarily from the top down. It is being driven from the bottom up, from an adoption standpoint. How do different people at the ground level, how they use it? How does it actually transform fundamentally how business function works? If you look at the diagram there, really what I'm trying to point out is they have to reimagine how the entire company operates at each division when it comes to AI. So whereas ERP here, my takeaway, optimizes functions, AI is actually transforming how that entire function works. ERP was bounded. It worked within certain segments, certain departments. You knew it was a contained box. AI is definitely not in a contained box in this case. The benefit of ERPs and CRMs was it enforced consistency. AI does not do that, unfortunately. It amplifies variability. That's one of its core sort of positives, is that it can take all this variable information and work with it. So AI introduces that whole flexibility and scale, but that does, on the downside, offer significantly more complexity and risk. What I like to sort of compare AI to is when the internet first became pervasive in this case. It was sort of everywhere. It scales organically, as AI does, and it's continuously evolving. For many of you, if you do remember, let's be realistic, internet is still evolving as we are today. But in the past 20 years, we have seen the internet evolve from being basic websites to much, much more at levels that we haven't even seen, things behind the scenes that are being run by the internet in this case. That is a fundamental shift. And we're seeing that the same thing with ERPs in this case. For those that, it creates this amplification effect within organizations. It exposes pretty much everything you do. And why it's doing that is because it can increase the speed. It can increase the scale that we're talking about. All the good things that many senior managers, pundits across, that is the core benefit of AI, is it scales, dramatically increases the speed, and it can do things. And that's fantastic. That's great. But there is, as I said, there's a downside to this. And we're starting to see a lot of that is a lot of it depends on the operations in the process as we're dealing with it. If you have a weak process, if you don't really understand how your operation works, this is where AI implementation can obviously cause a lot of problems because of the scale and the complexity around it. It will absolutely increase the dangers and the risks to your company. I like to put together this small chart that I show a lot of my clients is where are your organizations when it comes to process maturity? Will really depend on how you want to adopt AI in this case. If you have weak process maturity, if you don't really understand your processes, if it's not documented, if there's a lot of issues, you want to be very careful about how you adopt AI. I would recommend a low AI adoption. And I mean that by having specific small pilots, specific small functions in this case. As you grow your maturity around your process, you can grow your maturity around your AI adoption, and you can scale that up as well. It becomes something from individual and silent pilots to true enterprise transformations of AI in this case. Of course, the downside here, obviously, is this corner over here. If you want to go with high AI adoption and you want to do enterprise transformation without having strong process maturity, you're going to come up with a lot of issues and problems, and you'll see them faster and sooner than later. So like I said, AI doesn't fix anything. It's a tool in that sense, but it's a tool that has so much potential that it magnifies pretty much anything that you're working with right now. So having said all that, really, I want to bring it down to, as you're working with companies, as you're within a company yourself, and you guys are thinking about AI and AI deployments, really you need to think about AI not treating it as a tool versus a transformation. A lot of organizations, they are taking the AI approach. It's another software deployment. It's another productivity enhancements. As I said, they think about it as an ERP deployment in this case, and they're looking at it from that perspective. That's where a lot of this fails. What they really, and what everyone here should be thinking about is this is a fundamental workflow redesign. It's an operating model change as you're sort of working with this. And when you have that sort of disconnect between what you think it is and what you should be looking at, that's where a lot of I have seen the issues coming about. You see business functions breaking down. You see AI honestly just being layered on top of even broken processes to begin with. It didn't work as a manual process or a pre-AI process, and putting AI on top of it is not going to make it any better. If anything, if there are clear boundaries, if it's uncontrolled, all you're gonna do is amplify the risk that you're seeing. And one of those key things comes down to governance. You really do fundamentally need to build in governance in the organization to understand how that works. And that's part of the reason why I'm participating with AI Authority here is governance and frameworks are such a huge part of ensuring that those guardrails are in place. Because AI is constantly evolving, guardrails and governance have to constantly evolve as well. Like I said, AI increases both speed and risk. So there's always a danger of structural failure accelerates when that happens. So as we think about AI deployments, again, it's not about just the software. It's understanding how it's going to completely redefine how certain things are done, certain actions, activities, and business functions. You're going to have to evaluate what is true value added for any business function before you're thinking about deploying those AIs. I've given you sort of the top level there, and I've given you sort of a taste of the mid-level of understanding, how things are working. But, we're talking about the actual fundamental solution. As I just said, the first step is truly understanding how your business works, because AI touches every function process, or it can. You can choose not to, but it has the capability to touch pretty much everything that is within your organization. From a workflow perspective, AI can make it faster, it can make it more dynamic, and quite honestly, it will make it a lot linear because it has a capability of learning, taking in context, all the wonderful things that we love about AI in this case. But knowing that when you're talking about
بعرف، بس أقول لك لما
Excuse me?
رحت لعندي وبتشوف إذا الهوكي
You
سرا.
think someone needs to go on mute? No, thank you. So as I was saying, when you're talking about AI transformations, though, it is more than just understanding workflows. You really need to understand beyond just the basic workflows, replacing a human cog with AI. You need to understand, how does it change escalation paths? How does it change the decision authority? There's a lot of informal coordination, operational dependencies that need to be considered. And without knowing those things, without even considering those things, that's where you see the non-value add use of AI. That's where you see it being misapplied. And quite honestly, that's where you see risk actually being added to your operations in this case. So as you guys are thinking about adding AI to an organization, it's really not just understanding the workflows, it's understanding how it shifts the work, the roles, and the decisions that are being made here. A lot of the positives are, you get to have more data-driven, AI at higher frequency. Those are all the good things. You can do more basically, but there's the downside of doing more is you need to have more oversight. You do need more orchestration. Governance becomes critical. I have not heard of a company yet that is completely AI. AI telling it to do, AI doing everything, AI showing up. There's always a human somewhere in that system. And that human needs to have the trust. It has to maintain that accountability that the AI can't really do. Like I said, AI is changing how work happens. And it's not just about getting it done faster in this case. And so this is, for me, how transformation really takes a look at this, because we are looking at it from a holistic perspective. It's about the process, how it's being performed, how it's being structured. Change, it's how the people adopt it, the trust, how they use AI. And then finally, it's how you actually deliver on that execution, whether it's at a pilot or scale in this case. And quite honestly, in my 20 plus years, not just with AI, but with every other project or large transformation project I've worked on, they fail when these things are misaligned. This is not new, this is not rocket science, but it is rarely ever done correctly. And lastly, executive ownership always matters in this case. If you haven't already worked on it, or if you in AI, it really does, I would like to say it comes from the top down and from the bottom up, but definitely from the top down, people have to own it. Management has to own it. They have to be able to really sponsor and care about what they're doing here, because it's going to change so much of their organization. Quite honestly, when that doesn't happen, organizations a lot of times end up in pilot purgatory. And what I mean by that is they do a couple pilots, the pilots are successful, but that's as far as it goes in an organization. They can't get out of the pilot stage because the minute they try to do so, things fail. And so you end up with these pilots to just continue on. Great for the pilots, but it doesn't transform the company as a whole. So, again, when it comes to transformation, it only works with everything sort of being aligned. And I'm going to sort of walk through with you guys each of those areas, process, the change, and the execution very quickly. Starting with the process. So it's understanding what you're replacing. And I said this before, and I'll say this again because it's truly important, is that you can't look at AI and humans and see them as interchangeable cogs in the workflow. The workflow, the operations were built for humans, with humans constraints, human considerations in this case. You cannot assume that AI is going to do the same thing. It's not, and that's why you're putting it in, but you have to understand the ramifications around that. And when I talk about processes, I talk about processes as in not a discrete workflow function. You can't look at it in a silo in this case. You really need to understand both the upstream, the downstream, and the ancillary processes that are around it in this case, because whatever you're changing with the AI is bound to affect other processes as you're sort of working through it. In a lot of instances, it means re-examining the process itself as a fundamental. When you're looking at a process, what is the goal of that process? You're not saying, I want to increase X workflow by a factor of 10. Sometimes you need to ask the fundamental question is, do I even need it anymore? is this process even necessary at this point? And if I'm creating this process and replacing it with AI, do I need to create a new process as you're sort of working through this? And the last thing, and I think cannot reiterate this enough, is always be concerned about what I call shadow processes. And in this case, when I say shadow processes, I mean anytime someone says, oh, I understand that, it's in my head, I know how to do that, but it's not documented anywhere, it's not captured in any sort of tangible way. A lot of times when I've seen AI implementations, that is where that uncontrolled risk is. That is where AI fails, is because, quite honestly, it didn't capture all the workflow, because some of the workflow is in someone's head, or it's a shadow process. I can tell you many stories about how that has happened, and capturing that, understanding that fundamental operations is key to understanding and creating a successful AI adoption. In this case, whether it's a pilot or a full enterprise transformation in this case. The second piece is understanding the people. That statement says a lot. It does not represent a more efficient person. But that is, if you look at that first bullet, the common misconception. You probably have seen many articles and headlines where they said AI is it's a faster person. It can do more, multitask more efficiently, because the reality is people do not multitask. We do things one at a time, and we become extremely inefficient when we do multitask. But humans are always going to be represented within any organization. That's the fundamental nature of society as we have it, regardless of how many operations and processes we replace with AI. So we need to understand, if you want AI adoption, if you want AI change and transformation, you have to take the human factor in. And this is really what I talk about, change management, the people. It's understanding what there is, what value they're bringing, what decisions they have to make, and where that sort of authority sits at the end of the day. As you are replacing processes, as you're adapting and creating, enhancing processes with AI, fundamentally what the people who are in that process are doing needs to change, and you need to understand how that changes and communicates to them. Because quite honestly, if you don't, what happens is, A, there's a lack of trust. B, you may create some new bottlenecks that you never even realized. And quite honestly, there's going to be burnout. One of the clear examples I saw recently was a company I was working with had replaced a lot of their low-level developers and coders with AI because it was more efficient and more accurate in this case. I'm sure many of you have heard that, many examples of that. What wasn't taken into consideration was there was still that human manager that was looking at it, more senior manager, coder developer that had to review things. Their job increased exponentially because AI could put out more product faster. And quite honestly, the human couldn't take and ingest all that information. They were a new bottleneck, and they were going through burnout. And quite honestly, AI, it didn't necessarily produce a superior product because it only knew how to create the code correctly, not necessarily what the organization wanted at the end of the day. When you think about job functions, think about your classes, business requirements developer, functional requirements developer, that's talking to the human, talking to the client, understanding what is it they really want, and translating that to an actual functional need, an actual code need. That was the part that was missing. Understanding that context. The AI they had created was great at creating the actual product, but didn't understand that context of what the actual need of the client was in this case. So in that respect, it sort of failed. So understanding how things fundamentally shift from a roles and responsibility will have a huge impact on how AI works as you sort of move forward in this case. And I guess one of the last things I want to leave here around the people section is there was a study done by Harvard Business Review just in the past month or two, where they started evaluating what we call AI brain fry. And it really goes to the story I was telling you is, studies have shown now that user productivity actually declines when people are managing more than 3 AI tools at any given point. Because the reality is, as a human being, we can only ingest and really absorb and manage so many things at once in scales. And yes, you may be able to create 15 different AI tools out there to create efficiencies in all these different areas. But if those efficiencies are going to one human, chances are that human, as I said, becomes a bottleneck, will burn them out because the overall organization wasn't built to handle that. Humans were not built to do that. And that's what I mean by understanding, going back to the process section, understanding you may have to fundamentally develop new processes, new operations to make sure everything works and fits together correctly. And the last piece really is about the execution. This is, a lot of this is sort of your classic project management, creating a structured approach in this case. We talk about KPIs, we talk about success measures. One of the clear things I've seen that delineates projects that worked around AI adoptions versus not is you don't want to be measuring AI activity. I understand you want to show a ROI on getting AI, but the AI activity itself is not the measurable outcome you want. You want to measure the actual operational outcome that you're talking about. Your success measures should be focusing on not just workflow acceleration, but the quality improvement. Is there actually a reduced decision latency? Is there operational scalability? Are you able to do more than before without breaking the system and the humans involved in it? So, as I said, when you talk about organizations, you talk about control pilots, to move from the pilot stage to the enterprise scalability stage, you're talking about changing a lot of the fundamental frameworks and structures of an organization. You got to talk about the governance aspect. You need to talk about integration. Then you can talk about scaling and adoption and operational ownership in this case. And when I talk about governance, I am not talking about just developing frameworks and policies out there. I am also talking about fundamentally understanding the governance of each sort of process workflow at the lowest tactical level. Because AI to a lot of people is a black box. Understanding how that works and working with that is one of the key things, at least at this stage, while it's still so new with organizations, to understand. So as I said, AI brings an unknown element. You have to execute against that mindset. Don't assume you're always going to know what AI is going to do, because most people don't. So lastly, I guess I'll leave it with this, is to understand most organizations at this point, from my experience, they don't need more AI. They have AI products, they have general purpose tools, and some of them have something a little bit more than that. What they really need to do is understand how to make what they have work more effectively. It's not a failure of execution. It is a failure due to execution, not capabilities. As I mentioned in the very beginning, AI amplifies strengths and weaknesses across the organization. And success really means aligning against people, process, as well as the delivery aspect. And that is a fundamental difference on how organizations move from what I would say experimentation pilots to true operationalizations across the industry. How well you adopt the practices, how well you develop your governance will really determine that scalability and the sort of the length of time it takes to scale. And I'll leave it with sort of the takeaway there. AI value is not created by deploying tools. It's about changing how organizations work in this case. And I will give you my sort of 30 seconds pitch now. From my own experience with my company and how it works is when it comes to AI adoptions, we basically take 3 pillars. We work with a lot of organizations to provide them foundational training. And this is for the entire organizations. I will call it the 101 of what AI is. And you can see what the modules we offer on foundational training is on the right-hand side. And this is to make sure everyone's level set. We give them the basics of what is generative AI versus predictive AI and others. We give them the basics of what prompts are, how to create a good prompts, what it means. We talk about custom GPTs and personas. We talk about AI agents, agentic AIs, and RAG. We talk a lot about responsible use. GPTs. And for the managers and senior managers out there, we talk about AI governance. And then we sort of give them a sort of a preview of what's happening in the AI world the next, I would say, 18 months to 2 years as it stands today. That's our foundational training. And we provide that for the entire organization. It helps level set every staff member to give them a sense of, oh, this is how AI works. And it, quite honestly, from my experience, it teases them up to think about how they can use AI in their own world, in their own job task. The second piece that we do is we actually work with governance development. This is typically with senior managers. We work at not only developing policies, because quite honestly, most of them don't have any policies associated with AI, but we also look at developing the actual processes to ensure that AI is being used responsibly, building those guardrails as you need them. And then really the last piece is the operational redesign. And that's building out specific use cases, building out a plan saying, this is where we think AI is most effective. These are the areas where we can use AI from an enterprise level. And these are the areas where we've decided not to use AI at all. And we're only going to focus on these specific functional areas and let it grow organically. Having said that, I will leave it. If there's any questions, if anybody wants me to cover anything else, I'd be happy to.
All right, guys. Any questions? Okay. All right. Then I think that's it. So thank you, Max, for your insights. I think you hit the right points. I could see that, history repeats because, 2000, pre-2000s, we had seen how the IT, failed in a way, right? With the dot-com bubble burst and all.
Mm-hmm.
I see the history repeating, the same thing, happening after all these years, right? Same thing happening. I'm just wondering what is going on. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and the other thing is, AI is similar to the other things, like, so, people are taking it for granted and doing their own thing. Shadow AI going everywhere, right? So these are all the problems that we are seeing, which are kind of a repeating by itself, right? We had seen all these things in the past, and still, it's repeating again with the AI. Yeah. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely, Suresh. And, I've had many conversations. I just had a conversation yesterday about the sort of the similarities to the dot-com era and when organizations were first adopting the internet. Incidentally, I was telling someone, you know, for those of you that may be old enough to remember, when before really IT practices and InfoSec practices really took, to the forefront, organizations were still figuring it out. I remember working at one company was where I think every week someone would go to whitehouse.com on their website, and it turned out to be a porn website because they didn't know any better. This is before companies developed blacklists and whitelists on websites. Those were the early days. Organizations eventually figured it out, but it was a process. It took time.
Right. Yeah. All right. So yeah.
I see a hand, I think Anu.
All right.
Yeah. Hi, Max. Hi,
Hi.
everyone. And I would have some slide question over here. That is what was going on outside in the SAP side. So, if many of the APIs coming out, so how would you tolerating the API load over here?
Are you looking at the scalability as from a scalability
It's something like
standpoint?
scalability and performance levels.
Right. I think nowadays the technology is so advanced, right? So with the cloud and all the other technologies, so much of elasticity and scalability is available right now. So I think we can handle better than before, right? So we have all all the infrastructure in place. So we are So we have TPUs, quantum computing, right? So doing all the heavy lifting of the scalability aspect.
And another one more question is like comparison level. So sorry, I was joined late. What happened before on the 15-minute sessions? I'm not sure about that. Okay,
Mhm.
so here it is for the own product as like AI authority, right? So
Mhm.
I do want to compare as like Joule and Joule Studio. It is there. How come we are coming up with this product?
What is that, Zool?
Joule and Joule Studio.
I don't know about that much, but see, the intent of AI authority is to promote best practices in AI, right? So from all aspects, from the development, from the governance, from security, from all aspects, right?
Okay,
So that's our whole intent. So we are not a
got
specific
it.
product or anything.
So another question is like, do we using the foundation models or your own foundation model going to implementing?
We are developing our own, right? But it will be compliant with the industry standards and all. So we are not reinventing the wheel, but we have developed our own frameworks and foundries. Yes.
Yeah, nice, Suresh. Nice to hear from you. Yeah, that's it for my end. Thank you so much.
All right. Anyone else? Okay. So thanks for joining. As I said, the event is recorded, and we will publish it on our YouTube channel, and you will be intimated about that when we upload it in our channel. Okay. So thanks for joining, and I'll see you in the next event, probably in the June second week, I would say, probably. Okay. So see you then. Thank you very much.